Okay, so I was waiting to read this until I had finished all the missions myself, but there's a lot of advice here that I'm curious to read to see if I missed anything. So let's see here. FAQ and tips. Air combat maneuvering, late Gulf, ground attack, late Gulf, ground offenses, late Gulf, taking off, landing, and ground maneuvering, scenario-specific tips, late Gulf, scoring, general game, common purchasing machine exercises. Exercises, what's that? FTP, archive, credits, late Gulf, cheats, late Gulf. Cheats, really? FAQ background. Okay. Note that a lot of the following is bona fide spoiler material. Read this only if you're really stumped or have played the game out and are looking for things to do. Air combat maneuvering, ACM, including air-to-sea tactics. Tip 1. To register a kill, try to shoot when the zero is still relatively small. There is a bug such that if one's immediately behind a zero, pouring one's guns into him, he won't die. In real life, a zero would be torn to shreds in a similar situation, so you do want to be behind him, but not too close. Having the airplane fill the screen is too close. Having it span the crosshairs is probably about right. Head-on attacks or side attacks are more successful or damaging when up close. Usually, though, he's shooting at you at the same time, so it's not a good idea to make a habit of this. Okay, yeah, so I had that impression. So I think I might try that on Divine Wind, doing a head-on attack, but we'll see. Tip 2, when dogfighting, always try to get behind the zeros. Try not to let them get behind you. Yeah, obvious. Tip 3, when dogfighting, it is usually better to come in low, a little off to the side, and start turning before the enemy fighter flies past you. Put the flaps in the up position so you can turn faster. And if you're about to, I think that's down, the down position. And if you're about to crash, use your rudders to pull you up without having to roll out. What does that mean, to pull you up? Actually, this rudder technique works for all turns. If you do this, you come up behind the enemy relatively close, and you just have to shoot at him until he gets hit. Make sure you don't go too fast and fly past him, or worse, crash into him if you're not careful. What is this bit? Put the flaps in the up, you turn faster, and if you're about to crash, use your rudders to pull you up without having to roll out. Oh, I guess that means to gain altitude. That's how broken the rudders are. You can use them as ailerons. Anyway. Yeah, tip 4. A technique to use when dogfighting is a skidding turn. In World War II, a consistent trait of American aces was their willingness to abuse the airplane. The Japanese pilots, in comparison, were very good, but tended to fly coordinated too much. Liberal use of the rudder, manhandling the airplane to your will, can give you the winning edge. Okay, what does that mean, a skidding turn? Just use the rudder? That's interesting. Willingness to abuse the airplane. Tip 5. This is interesting information. Okay, tip 5. Getting someone off your tail. Plan A. Start a tight turn, drop the gear, reduce power, and kick in the flaps. Plan B. Build up as much airspeed as you can, go level, kick the flaps in, and pull up into a vertical position. Plan B may not be a good thing to try with a sick engine. Tip 6. Make liberal use of the rudder controls. With these, you can outturn the zeros. In fact, with good airspeed, you can turn faster with the rudders than by banking. They also provide excellent attitude control when you are on your side in a turn. I find this very useful when turning close to the ground. They can be used to do snap rolls. What does that mean? When flying slowly, bank one direction, then hold hard opposite rudder. This takes a little fooling around. The most important use of rudders is to line up a target, either on the ground or in the air. Use caps lock so you don't have to use the shift key all the time. Oh, that's a good tip. I did not think about that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, tip 7. To keep from overtaking your target aircraft, simply reduce throttle while holding your attitude. If that doesn't work, closure rate is too fast. Try gear and flaps in that order, giving time to get a trend rate from each attempt. To counteract the upward pitching moment of the flaps, anticipate it and command pitch down slightly to keep the target in sight. If this still doesn't work, climb, but keep the zero in sight. If you get really close, the zeros will turn. So take a guess and turn in that direction. If you guessed wrong, just complete the circle and pick your victim up again. Tip 8. Lower the gear to slightly decrease your speed. Flaps may be used for more effect. Tip 9. You rarely, if ever, need a full tank of gas, and the difference in performance is amazing. No mission really needs more than 30% to be completed in a reasonable amount of time. An extra 25% would be a good reserve. Okay. Tip 10. If your mission doesn't need them, leave bombs behind. They are heavy and decrease performance. Take as little fuel as possible for the same reason. A full tank is 1,500 pounds and is good for 3 hours at 70% throttle. The thing is that the enemy fighters are so bad at dogfighting that I feel like well, I guess it depends on the situation, but I don't know. Anyway, tip 11, don't waste ammunition. You've only got so much. If you see flames, instantly break off the attack and move to another target. Don't be morbid and wait for the splash. Well, not just flames. If you see smoke, you can kind of ignore them. Tip 12, lots and lots of quick bursts are better than a couple of long ones. Tip 13, to judge the altitude of bogeys, keep in mind that if they're beneath the horizon, they're below you. If they're above the horizon, they're above you. In general, by the time you see them straight and level, if they're in your field of view, they're no more than 1,500 feet above or below you. Okay? Tip 14, taking on the whole flock. When you have several enemies coming against you all at once, you need more than good offensive moves. You need something that keeps one from nailing you while you're chasing another. Here are two one-for-all techniques. Aerobie effect. This is kind of a yo-yo while in a tight circle. The basic posture is a tight, level circle. This gets them all chasing you, and usually herds them all into a tight little knot, more or less opposite you on the circle. Now you need to work them around into your sights. Since you're turning hard, you're already banked into the turn. Bank out and up a bit while keeping the stick way back. You open the circle a bit and climb. Now roll back over and down. As you return to your base altitude, you gain speed around the circle, catching up with the trailing Zeke. Get it right, and he falls right into your sights. Smoke him. Okay, that's complicated. It would be something interesting to try as an experiment. Divide and conquer. If they're all in a furball, going every way from Sunday, drive through taking pot shots and ducking. One or the other of the two things will happen. Either one of them will latch onto your tail, in which case you go to the getting them off your tail maneuvers fast, or more desirably, one of them will turn tail and run away. Don't be fooled. This is not cowardice, it's group fighting, but you can use it anyway. While you're chasing this one, two bad things are happening. You're leaving the scene, where you're probably trying to protect something or other, and one of the others is probably latching onto your tail. So don't chase the decoy very long, and watch your tail closely, but you'll probably get one or two good shots in at him. Make them count, and he'll be bleeding too much to play in the rest of the fight. Then wade back in and cut the odds down some more. Okay. On using a mouse for flight control. Tip 15. Some people like using the keyboard with Hellcats. There is nothing wrong with that. However, a lot of folk use the mouse. Using the mouse is easiest for most Hellcat pilots. When you use the mouse, make sure that your mouse control panel device is set at its lowest tracking speed. If tracking is set high, your control over the aircraft will be near zero, and your maneuvers will seem choppy and erratic. If your mouse CDEV has a tablet setting, this is preferred. Above all, experiment and adjust. There are pilots out there who are very proficient with the mouse set at its highest setting. Another thing about the mouse, the idea is that you hold the mouse in a particular position, a bit to the right to roll right, or a bit back to pull the nose up. Not that you move the mouse momentarily to make a change. Whoops. This is sometimes confusing to people who've used the keyboard to fly, where you usually tap a key to change the control surfaces. The farther you move the mouse, the more the control surfaces move. If you have your tracking set high, then a small mouse motion makes a large control surface motion. Sounds good, huh? But a fast motion makes a bigger change than a slow one. If you twitch the mouse away from the center, then move it back to the center more slowly, the control surfaces will not return to center position. This is the basic reason why you should turn the tracking down. It is normal, depending on airspeed and whether you have the flaps down or not, for the neutral position, where you hold the mouse to fly straight and level or to continue some turn, to change. If you are going slow, for example, you not only have to hold the nose higher to maintain altitude, you need to pull back farther on the stick or mouse to keep it there. If your neutral point drifts uncomfortably, or you get too close to the edge of the mouse pad, just lift the mouse and reposition it near the center, but not actually at the center. Try to put it in the spot you expect it to be for what you're doing at that moment, or you'll just fall off the other side of the pad a moment later. Question. Just because I see something on radar, does it see me? Will they immediately come after me, or do I have some time to pursue my mission before I worry about the zeros? Answer. Maybe, maybe not. Most likely, yes. Unless you are in Scramble or Flying Fortress, you can take your time. Usually zeros are easy points, and it is fine to try and take them out. You do need to worry about the zeros in Scramble and Flying Fortress, as your objective in those missions is to protect. I thought in Scramble your objective is to take out the enemy bomber. Maybe I'm missing something. Okay. Question. Is it possible to collide with another plane? Answer, yes. If you slam into a plane, you will explode and die. This is another danger of using the autopilot. Question. Is it possible to shoot down the pilot after he bails out? Answer. No. Don't even waste your ammunition. This feature was not provided due to humanitarian reasons. Question. Is it possible to collide with the pilot after he bails out? Answer. Yes. Colliding with a parachute, as discussed before, or the pilot, or the lines will result in immediate death. Wow, okay. I never ran into that issue. Question. If I try to dogfight with another pilot using the autopilot key, half the time the autopilot drives me into the ground. Am I doing something wrong? Answer. Yes. Your autopilot is not smart enough to know when you are too close to the ground. Watch your altimeter. If you are getting down to 300 feet or 300 or so feet and are above 180 knots, get the hell out of Dodge. Pull up on the stick or make a steep climbing bank. If you don't, you will auger into the ground and will go home in a pine box. Question. What's wrong with my plane? The zeros run circles around me. Answer. If you try turning with your flaps down, you'll find that you can keep up with the zeros, but watch your airspeed. Question. Why does the plane seem to overreact to stick movements? Answer. Your mouse speed is set too fast. Use the control panel and set mouse speed to tablet. Question. I can't get the hang of getting behind the zeros. How can I improve? Is there a quick way to learn? Answer. Just lots of practice. Practice tight turns using your flaps, gear, and, if necessary, decreased throttle. Don't be afraid to make out-of-plane maneuvers. For example, instead of a level turn at constant altitude, lower or raise the nose and turn in a tighter, smaller cone. You can also use the autopilot, but that's really a miserable cheat. That's a really miserable... Okay. How long is this? Wow, this is really long. It's a long document. Okay, well, I'm through a bit of it. Okay, any question? How can I outmaneuver zero that's behind me? Answer. You can use the flaps, F key, as an air brake to slow down your plane. Then you can do a tight turn to the opposite heading from your original heading. When your heading is where you want it, then retract your flaps and gear, if down, and increase the throttle fully. It will probably not be able to follow you, and you'll be behind it soon. Question. Why in frontal passes do the zeros seem to always damage the Hellcat engine, contrary to actual experience? Answer. Try evasive maneuvers when you are approaching the zeros. If your radar is scanning in 1 mile mode, and you are 1 square away from the zero, use your rudder and weave to the zero. Contrary to real life, it helps to come up from below and slightly slow on your first contact. Given the limitations of the display, what matters here is you seeing them first, and just accept that they'll probably see you no matter what you do. Fire short bursts head-on, brake, and turn as fast as possible to reacquire them. Leyte Gulf. Tip 1. To sink both cruisers and the aircraft carrier, there are a couple of hints. First, torpedoes are definitely sensitive to attitude as well as altitude and speed. You don't have to be very far out or level for the torpedo to fail. Out or level for the torpedo to fail, okay? Far out of level. You can use an alternative view, rear chase, etc., to see the torpedo hit the water. If you don't see it running after hitting, then you failed to drop it properly. Go back around and try again. Tip 2. When dropping torpedoes, try to maintain an altitude of 250 knots or less. Also, keep your airspeed to below 140 knots. Oh, your altitude of 250 feet or less. Also, keep your airspeed to below 140 knots. Also, if your airspeed is too slow, the torpedoes will explode on impact. Try to stay above 80 knots. Sometimes at 100 knots, your torpedoes will explode. When approaching a target, remember to sight the ship. Find out in what direction the ship is traveling. Approach the target oriented to the bow. Aim slightly ahead. Anti-aircraft gunners are deadly. Try not to travel in a straight line. Use your rudder and zigzag to the target. Try not to shoot back. Maintain your concentration on the target. Tip 3. The other difficult thing about torpedoes is that it is very hard to lead in formation to the enemy ships. The F-6F with a torpedo goes much slower than the Corsair, it appears. This makes it easy to make your lead too short. Your lead too short. Okay. But if you fly straight out from your carrier, you should hit either the enemy carrier or the nearest escort. Of course, once the ship is stopped by a torpedo or bomb, torpedoes are easy to deliver and very effective. Tip 4. The problem with torpedoes is simple mechanics. Carrier, explosion at, etc., etc. Okay. Time equals T0, velocity equals 37 knots. Dropping torpedo, velocity is less than 2.5. A simpler approach is to aim in collision course against the target with a narrow angle and a small lead. It is really much safer than using bombs because we are not so exposed to anti-aircraft fire. And those Japanese gunners did quite an improvement in 2 years of war. So yeah, the anti-aircraft fire is much better, much more accurate in Leyte Gulf than in Hellcats in the Pacific. Torpedo bug. In deep trouble, sometimes you hit a sub with a torpedo. You can see the explosion of the torpedo on the sub, Control I confirmed, but sometimes you never get credit for it. Good old 500-pound bombs are much more reliable against submarines. Okay. Tip 4. The only mission where enemy ships are of any concern is lightning strike, unless you count the gunboats in Bridge Out. Don't bother with torpedoes until you've got a carrier at full stop, like some big fat sitting duck. If you take bombs for your first run against an enemy task force, you can take out both cruisers with one pass. Yes, it can be done, and thus eliminate 50% of the anti-aircraft fire. Okay. I don't remember what lightning strike was. So you should go for the cruisers first, and then go for the carrier, something like that. Okay, well, while you're headed back to base, take out all the zeros and franks you can. If there's still a live P-38 at the end of the dogfight, he'll plant a bomb on the carrier for you. Then you've got that aforementioned sitting duck. The hardest part about a torpedo run is that after you've dropped both fish in the water, it is hard to leave until you get to watch the detonations. The carrier's still got live anti-aircraft fire. Zeros will be popping up occasionally, so if you're a bit sadistic and want to stick around to watch the carrier's crew take a bath, keep an eye on the scope and watch your distance to the carrier. On the scope? What's the scope? Tip 5. Submarines are the easiest targets in Hellcats. They don't fire back. Tip 6. Reading the original F6 owner manual in Hellcats. The guns shoot like this. The bullets converging on point A. If you get real close to anti-aircraft systems, something like point B, bullets will hit around the AAAs. Same thing is true about dogfights. Okay. Tip 7. If you've got the time, do some climbing while flying away from the target. It avoids triggering additional air cover takeoffs. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Tip 8. The fastest way to gain altitude, especially after takeoff, is to open the throttle wide and raise the nose enough so you're going about 140 knots. Okay. If you use the flaps while you're doing this, you'll be able to keep the nose low enough to see where you're going, but the optimum speed is still 140 knots. If you're moving faster than 140 knots when you decide to climb, pull way back on the stick and zoom up, trading your speed for immediate altitude. As you approach 140 knots, let the nose fall until you hold steady at 140 knots. Don't do it this way if you're within shooting range of an enemy, though. 140 knots makes you a sitting duck. Tip 9. If you need a desperation kill for a fighter or bomber, launch more than one pair of missiles. What does that mean? When launching 4 or 6, the chance of one of them hitting is pretty high, and considering you only need to hit to kill any plane, one hit to kill any plane, it may be worth it. Missiles? What does that mean? Does he mean rockets? You can fire rockets at other planes? Interesting. Okay. Tip 10. When firing rockets, don't get too close to the explosion. Pilots have had planes not only lose engines, but some actually blow up because of the explosions. It is very dangerous firing missiles at planes that are only a few hundred yards in front of you. Almost guaranteed death. Really? It's just a few hundred yards. Okay. And why is he's using the word missile and rocket interchangeably? Okay. Tip 11. When dogfighting with a wingman, go after any smoking Japanese plane, even if the wingman was responsible for the damage. By scoring the last hits on the Japanese plane, or better yet, flaming it, you can get full credit for a very easy kill. Tip 11. When initially approaching the Japanese fighters, do so completely head-on. When you are approximately 1/4 of a mile away, launch a couple of missiles. It is relatively easy to get one smoking in this fashion. A very useful technique with the Franks. Interesting. Okay. I had never considered that. Anyway, ground attack questions. Tip 1. Make only one pass, hit them hard and accurately, and get out of there. Tip 2. If you drop a bomb while flying level, it will have forward momentum and will be very inaccurate. That is why we use the technique of dive bombing. The manual suggests you climb to 8,000 to 12,000 feet. This is about right, as any lower you will get shot up by flak, and it will be hard to line up the shot. The ideal angle of a dive is 60 to 80 degrees. A good technique is to make sure you are level and look straight down. The field should be about 1/3 the way down the screen. This only works if you are level. To look down, hit the down arrow twice. If the pan cockpit view option is checked, the view will sweep the area. If not, the change is instant. I keep it on. You should drop the bomb between 1,000 and 2,000 feet to 500 to 800 feet. Okay. Any higher is inaccurate. Any lower is too dangerous. Tip 3. The setup. To get a direct hit on a pinpoint target, as in the test target in the training mission, fly at the point you want to hit low, 500 feet or less, and fast, 200 knots, is likely to be hot, as in battleships. What does that mean? Oh, as the target is likely to be hot. For example, battleships. Okay. Zoom straight down when the target goes below your panel view. Okay. 500 feet or less and fast. Zoom straight down when the target goes below your panel view. Okay, interesting. That's something to try. Tip 4. The hammerhead stall. When the target appears at the edge of your view, pull up sharply until you are vertical. Climb until you are about to stall, and pull over so that as you stall, your plane flips over and you are pointing straight down at the target. Interesting. Okay, something to try. Tip 5. Timing the drop. Watch your shadow on the ground. Give this a couple of tries on the training mission target to get a feel for how the shadow indicates your position and the time to drop your ordnance. Tip 6. Pulling out or popping your rivets. A. Better off dead method. After the drop, cut the engine, continue to fall until you hit 500 feet. Put down your flaps and simultaneously pull back hard. Immediately rethrottle. You'll scrape the ground and bounce up to around 600 feet again. What's the point of that? Why would you cut your engine? Okay, B. Mama, I want to go home method. Hit the flaps the moment you drop the bombs and pull back to a steep dive. Hold this attitude till you reach 200 feet and then pull level and retract the flaps. You'll be out of AAA range quickly. Warning, warning, warning. Never attempt this bombing maneuver when there are enemy fighters, smoking or not, around. They will hit you when you slow down for the stall. Tip 7. When attacking enemy targets, try to hit them as you fly over them lengthwise. This way you don't have to time your bombs exactly to hit if you're coming into your target on a perpendicular angle. This is also very good because many times you can sink an enemy carrier with only 2 bombs if they hit near the middle of the carrier. Okay, I didn't know that. Tip 8. There is a small village in the southeast of Henderson Field, 3 houses and a small lake. Try these out for target practice. Okay. Tip 9. South of Henderson Field, there is a bridge that can be sunk. Okay. Tip 10. You can actually sink a carrier with 1 bomb. If you can manage to drop the bomb in such a way that it goes under the flight deck and explodes on the main deck, under the flight deck, then the carrier will sink. Interesting. It looks great in instant replay because after the bomb explodes within the carrier, you see debris fly all over the place. Interesting. How do you do that? It goes under the flight deck and explodes on the main deck, under the flight deck. Interesting. I'll have to... That's something to try. Okay, tip 11. Another trick when going after a carrier is to dive at the red dot on the deck. Go up to around 8 to 10,000 feet, cut power to 60 or 70%, and head directly for the nice red dot on the deck. At about 1,000 to 1,500 feet, a higher percentage hit occurs at 500 to 800 feet, but the chances of being shot down are also higher. Drop both or 1 bomb, break away from the escort, if there is one, and go to full power like a bat out of hell. Tip 12, desperate kill. If your engine is out, or you are out of fuel after the first pass of a carrier with 2 hits, and you are too low for expecting going back home, or whatever, try to crash your plane into the carrier, and don't forget to jump before and high enough. That way you can kill the carrier and you'll have a reasonable chance of being rescued. Anyway, it has worked several times with me. Anyway, you won't get a medal for your mission as you lost the aircraft. Tip 13. Oh, you can be rescued. Okay, that's interesting. Tip 13. In most of the scenarios, you most likely don't require a full tank of gas, half at most. Take what you need, but not more. If you don't need bombs, don't take them. In some of the scenarios, if you do a good job of protecting the carrier, you can land back on the carrier and rearm, this time with a bomb load. Question, how can I sink an enemy carrier? Answer, you must put 3 bombs on it. One method is to fly very low on the same heading as the ship. Use rudders to fly in a zigzag pattern when approaching the ship to escape the anti-aircraft artillery fire. Another method is to climb to 9,000 feet and dive bomb the carrier or ship. Question, why don't I get credit for bombing the enemy's runway? I know I dropped the bomb right on it. Answer: you probably dropped the bomb on the Japanese flag, which is a decoration between two runways. You need to make sure you drop a bomb right in the middle of the runway. Try to drop the bomb in the center, width, and the middle length of the runway. Once you get the hang of it, you will be able to plant the bomb anywhere on the runway. Leyte Gulf. Tip 1. You get a warning for firing at friendly units when you land if you try using rockets at the enemy while anti-aircraft artillery is active. Interesting, okay. What goes up must come down, especially if your orientation is 90 degrees or less toward the ground. Good advice is, do not kill enemy bombers with rockets when your own flak is active. But it is okay to do it to get another 50 points when over an enemy area. Tip 2. The rockets tend to have a greater rate of descent than bombs. Shoot high, even in rocket bombing runs. Whereas in an 80-degree dive bombing run, you want to release with the sights set just under the target. When dive rocketing, aim just over. Okay. Okay. Tip 3. In most surface attack scenarios, you can clean out all the enemy air cover in 1 or 2 flights. You can then take your time with the bombing, only worrying about the AAA. Approach well above 10,000 feet, dive sharply, drop at about 1,000 feet, and then get your tail up above 5,000 and out of town, and you should be fine. Tip 4. When using rockets, make sure you aim above your target. The farther you are, the higher you aim. This is because gravity has a terrible effect on rockets. Tip 5. Always carry missiles around. They are the most versatile of your weapons. You can use them to kill subs and gunboats, planes, tanks, buildings, enemy torpedoes, etc. Okay, interesting. Ground defenses. Tip 1. Dodging AA. Never undervalue the view from behind. From this vantage point, you can see the AAA machine gun fire before it crosses your plane, and thereby dodge potentially mission-ending bullets. Okay. Tip 2. When attacking any target that shoots back, other than fighters, their shots always seem to go in bursts. Just stay out of the stream when the burst starts and then get back to business. This is especially helpful against the stupid bomber. Leyte Gulf ground defenses, okay? Tip 1. When coming in for an attack, especially if making a torpedo run, stay very, very low, that is less than 100 feet. This is because the flak gunners can't fire at less than 1,000 feet. B. The AA gunners keep shooting above you if you're low. It's actually pretty neat in replay. It seems you're almost skimming the sea. Be careful not to get too low, though, because bad things can happen if you hit the water at such a high speed. This works with both Hellcats. Tip 2. When firing rockets, it is sometimes better to launch them when your Hellcat is sideways, that is, wings pointed up and down. This tends to spread your missiles farther so they kill 2 targets rather than overkilling 1 target. It is especially useful in killing narrow targets as well, such as the bridge or enemy subs and torpedoes. Tip 3. When attacking a sub or torpedo, you don't have to hit exactly on target. Hitting anywhere near the front of the wake will kill a torpedo, and hitting anywhere in front or in back of the conning tower will kill a sub. So if you have a decent shot but not a bullseye, fire away. Odds are you'll hit it. Tip 4. Hellcat's Leyte Gulf missions provides you with some snappy new targets to shoot at. When bombing tanks, you can actually take out more than 1 target with a single bomb. By placing your weapon between 2 fairly close tanks, both of them explode. Be careful not to get too far away, though, or you won't destroy either of them. My secret is to approach the 2 tanks by either lining them up, so I'm pretty sure of nailing at least one of them, if not both, or approaching directly perpendicularly to the line formed by the 2 tanks, so I can come in high, drop down on the center point between the 2 tanks with more accuracy. Okay. Tip 5. When bombing surface contacts the safe and sane way, approach high and fast, no flaps, looking down between your knees, 1 tap down arrow. Hold the horizon just about even with the top of the screen. You'll be climbing around 500 feet per minute and can cruise at around 230 miles per hour, wide open. When the target disappears off the bottom of the screen, you're nearly over it. Push forward hard on the stick, return to cockpit view, and dive down with the crosshairs just before the target. Don't forget to dodge left and right a bit with the rudder. At around 2,000 feet, by which time you'll be moving maybe 400 miles per hour, drop your load. Drop bombs a little short, rockets a little long. Then yank back on the stick and drop the flaps with maybe a little evasive left or right. Retract the flaps when your nose rises above the horizon. Get back above 5,000 feet as quickly as you can without slowing much below 150 knots, and watch out for air cover while you're going so slow. Taking off, landing, and ground maneuvering questions. Tip 1. To take off, go to full throttle by holding down the plus key. At around 50 knots, start pushing down on the nose such that you're level with the horizon. Unlike the P-51, you needn't worry about prop strike. Around 80 knots, ease back slightly on the stick. Hold your attitude with the horizon about 1 inch beneath the crosshairs and wings level. Flaps are not necessary for takeoff, but help one after taking off from a carrier. If one didn't use the entire available runway for takeoff, such as a sloppy landing, then starting a takeoff midpoint on the carrier deck. Tip 2. To land normally on any surface, the idea is to maintain a constant attitude, keep wings level, modest sink rate, vertical speed indicator unstuck, and maneuver as little as possible. Lower gear and flaps when the runway's still less than a centimeter large. Don't rush things. Reduce power to 30 to 40% and aim for a touchdown airspeed of 80 knots. Keeping the nose about an inch above the horizon will do this for you. Use pitch to control the rate of descent, adding not more than 20% power as necessary. Right before touchdown, hit the M button to kill your engine. Unless you have engine damage, you might not be able to restart for a go-around. After touchdown, lower the nose until it's level with the horizon and hit the spacebar for braking. Okay. Tactical landings under fire with Zeros behind you require a bit more skill, but can be done flaps up, abeam the carrier in a circling approach. Work at it. Tip 3. Use the rudder to line yourself up with the runway when landing rather than ailerons. This will keep your plane level but still allow you to move left and right. If you have a Gravis mouse stick, try setting the other two buttons to control the rudder. Note that unlike a real airplane, the rudder in Hellcats doesn't raise the leeward wing any. Tip 4. To land on a carrier, you must catch an arresting wire. They are on the back half of the carrier. That is the side with the numbers. The tower should be on the right. Using flaps will give a steeper descent. If you miss the wires, gun the throttle and try again. Don't land on a damaged carrier. If you do, reload quickly and take off quickly, or you will go down with the ship. Tip 5. How to land on a listing carrier. Land like you usually do, but keep the Hellcat on a horizontal plane with the listing carrier and use the rudders to maintain your heading and position relative to the horizontal plane of the carrier. Oh, so you can land on a listing carrier. I haven't done that. Okay. Tip 6. If you are damaged, you have 3 options in landing. You can attempt a disabled landing, a ditch, water landing, make sure gear is up, or bail out. Landing is the preferred option since you will keep the plane and get mission credit. Bailing out loses the plane and mission credit. Also, if you successfully land, you are much more likely to live than the other 2 options. Bailing out is the most risky. Okay. Tip 7. You can't ditch with your gear down. Tip 8. If you are screwing up the approach, don't despair. Full power, clean up, gear up, raise the nose, and go around. Question. I can't turn around tight enough, especially after landing on a carrier. Answer. Can't turn around tight enough, okay. Oh, hit the nose down, hit the down arrow once so you can see where you're going. Then hold down the brakes and apply full power. Steer with the rudder keys. When you're headed in the right direction, release the brakes, pick up 10 to 15 knots, and cut the engine again. Question, can you land on the bridge in bomb base? Answer, yes, it has been done. However, watch out. The bridge is in enemy territory. Many pilots report that if they come to a complete stop on the bridge or near it, then they are captured by the Japanese. Question, why is it so easy to crash on landing, contrary to what films show of actual landings from World War II? Answer, PC flight simulators, no matter how good they are not very good visual simulators. They have lousy input devices and lousy displays. You lose virtually all the cues that are normally available to the pilot: ground texture, grass, nearby structures, sounds, motion, and are looking out a window with a 90-degree peripheral field of view without changing views, 45 degrees on both sides of the center line compared to around 180 degrees in a real airplane. So there's a significant difference in how the airplanes are flown. Comparing this to the real thing just won't work. But note that Hellcats has one of the best in-envelope flight control models around. If you're consistently landing, best look up the landing sections in the manual or work through the FS 4.0 tutorials. What's that? The tail dragger aspect of Hellcats has little to do with effectively landing the airplane. Not sure what that means. In a nutshell, make sure you are straight and level when you land the plane. Make sure your artificial horizon instrument indicates that you are parallel to the ground. Once you get the hang of it, it is pretty easy. Fly, don't mush into the ground. Okay. AT Golf, scoring, general game questions. What's all this? Oh, there's no network fire. Oh, so these are like fun things, fun challenges. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and then I'll keep Okay. So go cheats. Interesting. Let's go back up. I think it was mission specific tips I was on. Yeah. Here we go. Scenario specific tips. Tip 1. In flat top, where you take off from a field and try to sink a carrier, I found that the most effective technique is as follows. Fly directly north, or whatever the direction is, the runway is pointed, at 50 to 100 feet altitude until you get to the ocean. Turn left and fly directly at the midsection of the carrier, again as low as possible, about 50 feet. Fire the machine guns constantly, spraying the carrier as you approach. At the last second, release the 2 bombs and pull up sharply to avoid slamming into the side of the carrier. Get the hell out of Dodge. Gun down the Japanese plane while returning to base. Interesting. What's shooting the machine gun do? Wonder why that would help. Tip 2. In flat top, the enemy fighter is going after your cruiser. Kill it before you attack the enemy carrier. It's an easy 500 points. Well, he just said... Kill it before you... This tip directly contradicts the previous tip. Okay, tip 3. In bomb base and capture island, after bombing the runway, it's possible to take out the AAA batteries on either end of the enemy runway, after which you can strafe the airfield to your heart's content. Okay. Tip 4. In bomb base, you get credit for shooting the planes that are on the ground. Okay, that's cool. Tip 5. In the duel, try to hit one or both of the leading zeros as you go into them head-on. And even if you miss, go after them immediately. Otherwise, they'll ignore you and go straight for the carrier. Okay. Tip 6. In the duel, after you've shot down all the zeros, follow the other Hellcat to the enemy ships and wait for him to bomb them, after which you can finish them off. Okay. Tip 7. In Divine Wind, keep an eye on long-range radar after the 4th or 5th zero. If there is no others in sight, land and reload as quickly as possible, as a whole bunch more will show up and you'll need the ammo. Okay. Tip 8. Another fun thing to do, in Flying Fortress mission, when returning, let the B-17 get well ahead of you, 10 miles or so, and configure your Hellcat to fly straight and level. Then use the E cheat to see what the enemy sees. What you will see is the bomber base and final approach and landing. Okay. Keep swapping back and forth to be sure that your Hellcat is doing what you think it's doing. Then, when you can land, refuel and take off, and go try to sink both ships that were near the island. Okay. Tip 9. In Flying Fortress, fly ahead of the B-17 on the way there, and behind it on the way back. Okay. Tip 10. Engage the enemy bomber in scramble from above and to the front. You can usually get him smoking on the head-on run. Okay. Tip 11. In scramble, one way to minimize exposure to the gunners is to attack in a steep dive from 4 or 6 o'clock. There is a gap in the coverage there. Okay. Tip 12. Another approach is to the bomber in scramble is to fly very fast at about 100 feet until almost directly under it. Then pull up and roll around. You'll be approaching it from slightly behind and almost directly below it, giving you about 10 seconds of good shot time and putting you directly behind it after the maneuver. Okay. Slightly behind it, almost directly below it. Okay. Late Gulf scenarios. Tip 1. In Scramble 2, there's one Frank practically on top of you as you take off. Make an honest effort to tag him once. Try a fast 180 to the left off the runway tip underneath the Lightning, but be quick to leave him to the Lightning as you race south-southeast to catch the bombers. They have a close cover Frank as well. If you fly into the treetops, he may not notice you unless you spend too much time playing with the first Frank, or unless that one follows you radioing your position. Stay down with the squirrels until you pass under the 2 bombers, then pop up in a no-flaps Himmelmann. You'll be right on the bombers' tails, and the escorts will be way ahead and out of the action for a fair time. If you're good with rockets, especially from an inverted firing posture, you might be able to drop both bombers while the flank is turning back. Tip 2. When there are lots of enemy planes, like in Texas T, keep flying in circles and fire at all enemy planes. Don't try to go after one plane unless there are no other enemy planes nearby, because as soon as you get in a straight path, the other planes will get behind you and kill you. Just fly around and smoke most of the planes before you start going after individuals. Tip 3. In the lightning strike scenario, you can score a lot of kills by ignoring the Japanese carrier and escort. Instead, focus on downing all the Zeros and Franks that come after you. Okay. I've downed 6 to 8 Japanese fighters in this scenario using this carrier avoidance technique. Okay. Tip 4. In Texas T, east of that airfield, just north of a mountain, there is a small enemy encampment at one end of a road. Some buildings, but no AAA. Okay. Refueled, returned, and east of that airfield, just north of a mountain, there's a small enemy encampment at one end of a road, some buildings, but no AAA. Refueled, returned, and rocketed the buildings, then followed the road at treetop level. It wound north for several miles, saw no traffic on the road, but did encounter 2 Zeros. Not sure where their base is. Flamed them and kept following the road. It ended up veering west and running to the coast and ended in another, you guessed it, unarmed encampment. Interesting. Okay. Scoring general game questions. Tip 1. Make sure the triple time setting is turned off if you are trying to attack targets. Okay, that's obvious. Tip 2. The first time you play a new copy of Hellcats, it will be about a minute to build instrument panel. This needs to be done only once, but makes the file bigger. If you decide to play a game with a different number of colors or a different screen size, it will also construct the instrument panel and get bigger. Tip 3. If your Hellcat is on fire, you have no control. Bail out. Tip 4. Command T is the triple time option. It makes the game go 3 times as fast. Tip 5. You have enough ammo to fire for 45 continuous seconds. It's best 2 to 3. Best to fire in short bursts. The manual suggests 2 to 3 seconds. You can rearm and refuel when you land. You must be at a full stop, brake with the spacebar, and your engines must be off. Tip 6. Be careful using the autopilot down close to the deck. If you've damaged the Zero and there aren't any more in range, the autopilot will release when it crashes. If you happen to have the controls hard over in some way, you could crash yourself before realizing what's happening. Tip 7. Change the Gravis's joystick settings so that instead of the gear and flaps on the base's buttons, place the throttle controls there. It makes the plane a lot easier to fly with the speed controls handy. If you are right-handed, the flaps and gear are easily accessible on the left side of the keyboard. Tip 8. The biggest mistake people make in all flying games is to simply cruise around with the throttle wide open all the time. Use your throttle wisely. Drop down to about 80% once you get behind the bogey and shoot that sucker out of the sky. Tip 9. When your machine crashes during a landing or your aircraft gets flamed or something like that, just hit escape and end, or is it abort, mission. You will then survive, keeping the points from previous missions, plus what you have added to your permanent score on the current mission. This does not work if you get hit direct by a bullet though. Then you're dead immediately. Tip 10. The northwest quadrant, there are several strange small islands and a field in the middle of the sea. Interesting. Something to check out. Tip 11. Most of the missions, except Divine Wind, are of short duration compared to your fuel capacity. Especially in the carrier missions, you should keep your fuel at half and only make one pass at the target. Once you have eliminated fighter support, you can always land, refuel, and rearm. This works great with Bomb Base and the Duel. I keep my fuel at just over half for both, and my takeoffs are easier. Okay. Flat top is also a good example. You should lower your fuel levels each time you fly a mission and see how close you come to dead stick bingo landings. Tip 12, I don't know what bingo means. Use tablet mode from the mouse control manual for more mouse control. Okay, question, is it possible to fly under the bridge? Answer, yes, it has been done. Upside down, and some have landed on the bridge. Question, what's in the off-limits area to the west in flight school? Answer, a lake with 2 sailboats enjoying a relaxing afternoon. Question, what happens if you shoot or bomb your own carrier, base, or other Hellcat, etc.? You usually get a warning that you destroyed a friendly unit when you land. After 2 more occurrences, you are discharged. In the duel, someone shot down Lieutenant Commander Herbert and sunk the carrier, then bailed out of my plane. He was given a court-martial and executed. Question, what is the highest score anybody has made? The sky is the limit. That has not been recorded as of yet. That would be a little trivia. If you are a net person, you could find out in Comp Sys Mac games. Question, has anybody successfully completed all of the missions without cheating, that is, without using ResEdit to resurrect a dead pilot? Answer, yes, many have. Question, are the planes in the training mission supposed to be shot down? Answer, yes, please feel free to do so. You should decide to either practice bombing or downing the drones. The drones are good practice for attack angles. They are not that good in evasive situations and do not attack you. When you first load up with bombs in the training mission, you get 6. You will only get 2 if you reload after that. Question, why, if you pause the Flying Fortress mission when the Hellcat is still in the hangar, does the B-17 still take off? This makes it a little difficult to catch up and protect it. Interesting. Answer, well, you are pausing it for you. If you pause the game and scramble and pay attention to your radar, it does move. If you pause, it is wise not to pause that long. Pausing in the air seems to not have this same effect for some reason. It is best to have all your settings as you want them before you begin and save. Question, how does the collision detection work? Only in the middle? Answer, this author is not 100% sure, but it seems to be the way it works with naval objects. If it is the ground, then the first contact of your plane and the ground usually results in an explosion. Okay. Question. Sometime in the playback after crashing, it seems that the Hellcat literally falls in the sea the last few meters. What happens? Answer. Refer to the question above. The water seems to be treated as a transparent object to a certain depth, sort of like what happens in real water. When you hit a certain depth after penetrating the water, the Hellcat will always explode. Okay. Question. How is it possible to have enough fuel to go in the extreme northwest of the map and see the north directional arrow? Answer. Don't forget that the previously mentioned cheat key, Control S. Also, this author has been able to do this on a full tank of gas at 70% throttle at triple speed. However, I run out of fuel and cannot get back to base. You can also island hop. Pause the game, do Command M for map, and look for the nearest airfield. Most are friendly. You can fill up, take off, and reach an island closer to the directional arrow, then take off again with full tanks, then return to that nearest island and fill up again. Question, what happens if you jump and a plane hits you? Does the plane explode? Are you killed? Well, when a plane hits, it has only happened to a few pilots as of this date, and you die. Okay? The plane explodes. The same thing happens if you run into a parachute from a Japanese pilot. Interesting. Question, where is the second F-6F Hellcat going in the duel? Answer, the other pilot is heading toward the carrier. He usually runs into other Japanese pilots and they end up in a dogfight. If you follow your wingman, then you are bound to end up in a dogfight. Question, how much time has elapsed if you resume a mission after losing the first Hellcat? Resume a mission after losing the first Hellcat. Answer, it depends. If you live and are close to your base, not long. It is hard to tell since there is not a clock or game timer which is visible. In Scramble, if you lose your plane and you are close to the base and are found, it is not very long. You can usually see the other planes on radar when you are in your new plane. Oh, interesting. So that's like if you get hit and you land at the base, something like that. Question. Can I hide from the radar from the Zeros or the Japanese ships? Answer, yes. You have to stay very low. You can see the effect when you fire on a Zero and it somehow disappeared from your radar at some point in its fall. You just need to do the same. Stay up off the trees around 200 to 300 feet. You can do this if you are short of ammo and there are still Zeros around. Just make sure the Zeros are not in sight. Chances are that they can see you if you can see them. Question, why is my Hellcats program growing in size? Answer, each time you use it on a new size of monitor or of or 1/2 or 1/3 size, then Hellcats generates a picture of the cockpit and other stuff to match this size and stores it in the program for faster redraws. Whoops. So, for example, using it on a 21-inch monitor may add significantly to the program size. Question, how can I visit or look around the Hellcats scenarios real quick? Answer, there is a hidden command that puts you in the Superman chair and allows you to move all around at great speed. Interesting. Just type Control S while playing. Your plane is now immobile. You can move it around with the keypad, for example, 7 to go up, 8 to go forward, 5 to stop. You can press repeatedly on the keys to accelerate, but be careful with the speed. It will lead you outside the game. You can fire when in this mode, but the point will not be added to your score. If you try to bomb, that bomb will fall when you resume the game. Be careful when resuming the game. The plane will be nose down and the engines will be off, so remember to gain a lot of altitude. Control S will get you back. Interesting. Type Control S. What does that mean, type Control S? Okay. Are there any scenery discs available? Missions at Leyte Gulf should be released sometime in November. It will include additional enemy fighter types, different Hellcat weaponry, and additional scenery. What is the Ultra cheat key? Well, it depends on how you want to cheat. The E key will give you the enemy's viewpoint. A is the autopilot key, as you already know. Control S, as you again know, is the speed key to travel all over the scenario at high speeds. Question, how do I resurrect a dead pilot? Utility called Hellcats Rescue will resurrect your pilot from his death. You may also edit your copy of Hellcats with ResEdit. See the section following explaining how to do that. Don't use ResEdit unless you have done so before and know how to use it correctly. Okay, does it use color? Is the flight simulation fairly accurate? Answer, it is not perfect. Like most games, it is an approximation of a flight model, and this model is one of the most pleasant feeling, realistic of any simulator on the market. However, there are artificial limits to the program. One cannot, for instance, stall the airplane. It always sort of mushes out, nor is the ground model highly realistic. One can't lift off a carrier until one flies off the end, even if one has an abundance of airspeed. In some ways, it's a fly-by-wire aircraft, providing coordinated controls with a single input mechanism, the mouse. The rudder controls, by the author's own admission, were a last-minute addition and aren't properly represented by the flight model. Interesting. Can 2 or more people play using networked Macs? No, the current version of Hellcats does not allow this. There is a new version expected to be released next summer that may incorporate a network flying and combat. Question, does it support the creation of general mayhem on the ground, or can you only shoot down other planes? Answer, oh yes, you can take out AAA batteries, other aircraft, bomb hangars, and other ships. Many people report completing a mission and getting their mission award, and resuming the mission to go back and take out the AAA batteries and any planes on the ground. The air combat maneuvering component of Hellcats is much better than any other PC-based combat simulator, including Falcon 2.2 or 3.0. Interesting. Question, what kind of alternate input devices are available? Answer, the Gravis mouse stick is the most popular input device. However, many users have found that the mouse is just as satisfactory given the control model. Others have found the ergonomics of the mouse stick to be unsatisfactory. It's more of a fingertip device than a grab-it device. Thus, given the height of the stick, it's difficult to command full stick back, which one's almost doing in ACM. Leyte Gulf. Recently I got a device called MacFly. It is a game stick for the Macintosh. The device plugs into one of the serial ports and doesn't require unhooking the mouse. In fact, the mouse is still active. It has 2 trim wheels, 2 fire buttons with the aid of a mode button. It has multiple programmable settings, and best of all, the stick feels like a real control stick. I should also note that the stick will also center itself. I like it much more than the Gravis stick, and it has given me many hours of flying fun. Okay. This will take your order by phone, and I spoke to them by phone, and they said it was okay to post their address. I have no financial interest in this product. I enjoy it a great deal and wanted to pass the info along. Okay. Exercises. This is something I wanted to see. All of the following have been done. Try to ditch and take off after a long slide. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was possible. Try to land on an enemy carrier. Okay, that's something that... Fly and dogfight upside down. Okay. Try to follow 1-0 without killing it. Very good practice. Try to land on the mountain or a wounded carrier. Okay, that's an interesting one. Bomb everything in flight training. Place a bomb on the top of the control tower in flight training. Bomb all the bases, friendly or enemy, on your map after completing scramble. Okay. In scramble, take off with bombs and kill 1-0 and the BD. Let the other 0 go. Stay a good distance away and follow it on radar. See where it goes. Interesting. Fly upside down at 200 feet when flying over the runway at Henderson Field. Buzz the control tower. Interesting. Fly your plane fully loaded with fuel and bombs straight into your carrier or a friendly ship. Bail out at 200 feet. See what happens. Fly by the bunkers in Capture Island. The bunkers are the buildings on the beach being shelled by the cruiser you have to fly around to get to your target. See if you can see the doors. Oh, interesting. I was wondering what that explosion was. I thought it was a plane crashing, but it was the cruiser shelling it. Interesting. Okay. In Capture Island, try to get a bomb to hit the doors on the bunkers. Okay. Use replay as soon as you know your bomb hit so you can see how it went. Try to get right over the BD and scramble. When you are maintaining the same speed as the BD, try to maintain a height of about 100 feet above it. Push your down arrow twice to get a bottom view. You can sit there and watch as the Zeros try to shoot you down. They will put their machine gun fire into the BD. Also, if you are at least 100 feet above the BD, you can drop a bomb right on top of it. As soon as you release the bomb, lower the flaps and go to full throttle and go vertical. By the time the bomb hits the BD, you should have climbed at least 400 to 500 feet. Fly under the bridge, inverted. Land on the bridge. Do a touch and go on the dock. What's the dock? Don't know what the dock is. Land on the carrier the wrong way. Miss the arresting wire and complete a landing on the carrier. See how little runway it really takes to take off from the carrier. You'd be surprised. Kill a 0 with a bomb. That's an interesting challenge. You can land just as well on a carrier in either direction. In fact, it may even be a little easier to land in the wrong direction since the arresting wires are now at the far end instead of the near. Oh, that's interesting. When landing either on the ground or on a carrier, it is easiest to make a fairly high-speed, low-altitude approach. Not only do you have more control, but since it happens faster, you have less chance of making a boredom mistake. Interesting, okay. If you fly up to around 30,000 feet, the altimeter starts misbehaving. It registers negative feet. Negative feet. If you fly up to 30,000 feet, the altimeter... Oh, right. If you do a high-speed dive from this altitude, full throttle, the plane will instantly reverse its direction and head straight up once you have gained enough speed. Interesting. FTP archive. There is an archive of movies of amazing Hellcat stunts that you may be able to reach via anonymous FTP. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, the site also has permission from graphic simulations to include movies of the soon-to-be-released FA-18 follow-on to Hellcats. Interesting, okay. Hilarious these are the different videos that people made. Hilarious montage of island storm tanks driving out onto the sea. Hellcat kills self by dropping a bomb on itself. 2 bombs being dropped on the deck of a carrier. 2 bombs being dropped on a bomber. Hellcat landing on a Japanese carrier. Inverted plane passing under the deck of a carrier to drop a bomb and sinking the carrier upon dropping 2 more in the same spot. Passing under the deck of a carrier. Inverted plane passing under the deck of a carrier to drop a bomb and sinking the carrier upon dropping 2 more in the same spot. Interesting. I'm not even sure what that means. Plane passing sideways under a water tower. Under a water tower. Okay. Plane passing upside down under a dock. Don't know what dock they're talking about. FA-18 buzzing some buildings. Hellcat performing a hammerhead stall maneuver. An inverted bombing run on the training mission airfield. Missiles destroying a Frank. Hellcat flying in unusual formations with a bomber. Frank near crash into a grounded Hellcat. Hellcat flying unusual weather button. Frank near crash into a grounded Hellcat. Hellcat buzzing the training airfield, scrapes the ground on its pass. Hellcat takes out a land cruiser. Takes out a land cruiser. What's a land cruiser? Rockets stripping a carrier deck of all AAA. Interesting. Plane dropping bomb while passing under the carrier deck. Don't know what that would look like. An inverted plane flying under the deck of a carrier. You get to guess what went wrong with this landing. I don't know. Okay. AT Golf credits, cheats. It is hard to cheat per se. We have already discussed the EA, Control-S, and T keys. We are now getting into more sophisticated cheating. Most game pilots don't do this. Please be warned again, if you have not used ResEdit before, please do not try this stuff. If you still want to try, make sure you make a backup copy and experiment on your backup copy. Okay, so this is to resurrect a pilot. Don't really care to do that. Is there a Hellcats patch yet? However, this author does not support patches ethically. Again, this is a first-rate game. It is worth buying. So this means like a no CD patch. Oh, it's like it patches the demo to become the full game, something like that. Late Golf cheats. Tip 1. If you want up to 255 missiles in the new Late Golf module of Hellcats of the Pacific, the following must be done. Oh, okay, this is the... Yeah, I don't care. Make a patch for the missiles, don't care. Okay, well, it was alright. Technical notes. It's not possible to outturn the Zeros in plane, per se, merely outmaneuver them. It's an important difference. Due to the control logic, they don't react quite like a real pilot should when one tries out-of-plane maneuvers. What does that mean? On bombing, you don't need to be much below 2,000 feet to both release and climb out, even if you're 90 degrees down and have got the airspeed indicator pegged. It is suicide to try to slow down after dropping. Use your excess airspeed to get away from the ACAC batteries as fast as possible, or climb beyond their effective range fast and come in for another run. Okay. That's something interesting to know. Okay, well, there's the FAQ. I was curious. It was alright, nothing too mind-blowing. Nothing too mind-blowing.